You said something about, when you were talking about that, about an ability to step in and start moving towards a vision. What was the vision as when you sort of showed up and you're like, man, we are a tiny department with just 2 or 3 small training rooms. What was the vision that pulled you forward from there?
Well, as we thought about, it's when corporate universities were coming into vogue, and everybody wanted to have a corporate university. And my first question was, what does that really mean? And so as you looked at our meager curriculum, where we had a leadership program that we offered once a year, and it changed every year, I thought, I don't think this is the model of a university. So to have the vision of saying, how do we bring that whole university concept into the company and do it in a way that truly benefits all levels within the organization was the thought. And it was also, my vision was, we want to be the first thought, the first call that anyone in this organization who is interested and focused on their development, we want to be the first thought as a partner that they call.
Right.
We are the resource for the people of this company. And that was a lofty goal. That was part of the vision. The other part of it was, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will relate, especially if you're in a good culture and you have a great organization and you're concerned about sustaining that over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we also took on the responsibility, self-proclaimed, that we would be the keepers of the culture.
Right.
Now, that's huge when you're talking about an organization of that size and, these 10 people at the time and later 36 saying we're going to take this on as not only are we going to be the primary resource for the people, but we're also going to be the keepers of the culture. So that was the initial vision.
It's such an interesting connection. I mean, on the one hand, one of those visions, which is the first resource, the first person to call, that's a very easily pointed to measurable goal.
Yes.
And then something about the keeper of the culture, we tend the flame for this culture. That elevates it if the first one is a rational sort of vision, the second one feels much more emotional, much more sort of more abstract, but also more powerful and more compelling at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. And you can imagine that even the members of my team looked at me and they were thinking, I'm sure at the time, how?
Right.
How in the world are we going to do this and accomplish this and establish ourselves in this role? But I was very passionate, and I think when you are embarking upon great work, and as you label it, there's something in you that just says, I cannot not do this.
Right.
This is something that I'm supposed to do. You don't even know why. You don't even know how at the time. But you just know that you have to do it. And that was the feeling that I had at that time.
There's something very compelling about that. I love the fact you've said it a couple of times, which is we didn't know the how. And my experience of, many organizations is an obsession with the how. And I think of, Peter Block's, one of his latest books, which is called The Answer to How is Yes.
Yes.
And he sort of speaks, it's like, once we get so tangled up in the how and best practice that it actually can limit us to actually what we should be striving for. And that sense of having a loftier goal means that because it becomes so compelling, the how, you figure out the how on the way.
Absolutely. And usually the how that we think is the most logical, pragmatic way of getting there is not how it actually ends up. I love, what Stephen Covey says, and it start with the end in mind.
Right.
And I think, and that's been pretty much my philosophy throughout life. If I think this is the end result that I want, this is where I want to end up. This is the destination, as, we labeled in our book. Then we'll work out how to get there, or the resources will come. The plan will come. It will evolve. And so and that it's not so static that you aren't flexible, because there are going to be circumstances and things that happen that you could not have foreseen. And if you're not flexible enough to adapt, then you still may miss the opportunities.
If you've got a question you'd like me to tackle, please email me at teammbs@mbs.works.